Hi, my name's Daisy. I'm 33 years old. And 2 weeks ago, my father stood up in front of 30 people, friends, cousins, neighbors, and called my business a pajama hobby. He smirked. My mother laughed. And the rest of them? They joined in, like it was the best punchline they'd heard all year. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just stood up, picked up my purse, and walked out. No one followed. No one even asked why. That night, my mother texted me. Don't be too sensitive, honey. You know your father. He didn't mean it. Love you. I stared at the screen, and the words blurred. Not from tears, but from every memory where I'd been told the same thing. I was always the one who had to understand, to forgive, to let it slide. The duct tape daughter. Patch the cracks, smooth the wrinkles, keep the peace. Not anymore. Because what my father didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I was already done playing that role. So when he showed up at my door 2 weeks later, holding a grocery bag with store-bought cookies like nothing happened, I didn't see a peace offering. I saw a test to see if I'd fall back into line. And the thing about tests, you get to decide whether or not you take them. And that visit was just the first move in a game I didn't agree to play. I hadn't been back to Boulder in almost a year. Spring had just started to stretch its legs, painting the trees outside my childhood home with the faintest hint of green. It was Mara's birthday, my mother's. For the first time in months, she'd asked for the whole family together. Her words, not mine, and I knew exactly what together meant in our house. Performative warmth, plastic smiles, and enough unspoken tension to fill the Rockies. I showed up with a homemade lemon tart, grated the zest by hand, worked the crust until it felt just right. Stupid, really, to think anyone would notice or care. Inside, the air was thick with cooking oil, cologne, and history layered so deep it felt like another wall. Grant, my father, was already halfway to tipsy, laughing too loud at his own punchlines. Callista draped across the love seat like she owned it. Dorian, beer in hand, holding court with an office story. Mara saw me and offered a hug that was more pose than embrace. You look good, thin. Are you eating? Nice to see you too, Mom. The tart disappeared into a row of store-bought cakes. No comment. No question about the recipe. No flicker of recognition in anyone's eyes. Dinner was the same script as always. Gossip, promotions, vacations. I stayed quiet, not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew the moment I spoke, it would be twisted into a joke or met with that sharp, deliberate silence. Then Grant stood up, tapped his glass, announced Callista's promotion, Dorian's big deal. And then, he looked at me. That slow, dangerous smile. Well, she's got her little project, he said. Works from home, mostly in pajamas. Must be nice, huh? Laughter. Real, belly laughter. Even from people I'd once helped through math homework or driven home in the rain. Mara chuckled behind her napkin. She's always been our sensitive one. I didn't argue. I didn't smile. I just walked out, each step quieter than the noise behind me. The next morning, Mara texted, Don't be too sensitive. You know your father. The script again. I was the one who had to absorb the blow, patch the cracks, make it easy for them to stay comfortable. 2 days later, the first photos from that night went up online. Everyone gathered in front of the fireplace, smiling like they'd solved world hunger. And me? I wasn't in a single one. It wasn't an oversight. It was surgical. After that night, I didn't slam any doors. I didn't make a public declaration. I just stopped showing up. The decision didn't crash into me. It came like a tide. Quiet, steady, undeniable. No more family group chats. No more RSVPing to events I knew would end in the same script. 2 days later, I deleted the family calendar invites from my phone. By the end of the week, I had archived their numbers. Still there, but out of sight. Like faded names on an old guest list. The silence felt different this time. Not lonely. Earned. I poured myself into work. Signed 2 new clients. Wrapped up a workshop on streamlining creative systems. Drafted a pitch deck for a local arts council. My apartment was quiet in the best way. No one waiting for me to explain myself. No one watching for a crack in my resolve. No background hum of judgment. And then, late Thursday afternoon, the intercom buzzed. A sound that jolted me because no one buzzed without warning. Not my friends, not my clients. I pressed the button. "Yeah, it's Dad. I'm downstairs." For a second, I thought about pretending I didn't hear it. But old habits are hard to kill. I buzzed him in. He knocked softly. 3 counts, the same rhythm he used when I was a kid. When I opened the door, he stood there with a crumpled paper grocery bag. The corner of a plastic cookie box peeked out. "You used to love these," he said. I stepped aside without answering. He moved past me like he still owned the air in my space. He glanced around. "Nice place. Cozy." I asked if he wanted tea. He said yes, surprised. We sat, him on the couch's edge, me in the armchair across. He cleared his throat. "Didn't want things to feel tense. Your mother worries. Callista's busy. I figured I'd bring a peace offering." He nodded toward the cookies like they could patch over years of being undermined. "They still use red dye in those?" I asked. "What?" "The cookies. That dye gives me migraines now." "Oh, didn't realize." Of course he didn't. His eyes landed on my desk in the corner. Whiteboard full of notes, pinned up client logos. "So, who helped you put all this together?" he asked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, it looks professional. You must have had help. A designer, a coach." His voice was coded in that tone. Sounds supportive if you're not listening closely, but there's a blade hidden in it. "No one helped me," I said. "Just me." Silence. Not awkward, deliberate. He stayed a few more minutes, asked about parking, my rent, my neighbors. At the door, he said, "You always did take things too personally. It's just how we joke." "Then maybe I've outgrown the joke," I replied. His eyes narrowed just slightly before he walked out. I closed the door and leaned against it. The cookies sat untouched on the counter for 3 full days. Every time I passed them, I felt the weight of what they stood for. A gesture that looked like care but was really a test. Will you fall back into line, or will you hold the boundary? On the 3rd day, a different package appeared. Soft pink wrapping paper, tied with a perfect satin ribbon. No return address, but I didn't need one. Inside, a silky pink pajama set. The exact shade Mara had worn at the dinner, now folded into my hands. It wasn't a gift. It was a message. "Here's what we think you should be. Silent, decorative, small." I folded it neatly, closed the box, and pushed it away. I thought the cookies were a test. The pajamas were something sharper. The pajamas stayed on my counter for 2 days before I touched them again. Silky, soft, the kind of fabric meant to drape, not protect. The exact pink Mara and Callista had worn at that dinner. Their quiet uniform when they wanted to send a message without saying a word. This wasn't generosity. It was choreography. A reminder of the role they thought I should play. Quiet, decorative, harmless. That night the phone rang. Dorian's name lit up. "You busy?" he asked, voice easy like nothing was wrong. "I was about to start something," I said flatly. He didn't take the hint. "Mom's upset. She sent you something. Said she picked it out special." "She did," I said, and it was very telling. He sighed. "It's not that deep, Daisy. She's trying. And you kind of escalated things by walking out." I didn't make the joke, Dorian. I just refused to laugh at it. She was uncomfortable. "No, she was compliant. There's a difference." Silence on the line. Then the tone shift. Softer, like I was a child. "Maybe if you reached out. Said sorry." "For what?" "For making it weird." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. I didn't make it weird. I stopped pretending it wasn't. He sighed again, longer this time. "You're being stubborn." "No," I said, "I'm being clear." I hung up before he could answer. That night, I placed the pajama box in a paper bag and added it to my donation pile. It was raining lightly when I dropped it at the community shelter. I didn't linger, didn't look back. The next morning, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months. Aunt Yvette. My mother's older sister. The one who'd moved away decades ago and never looked back. Her voice was warm, unrushed. "I heard about the dinner," she said. She didn't ask for my version. She didn't need to. "I saw the photos Mara sent. You weren't in any of them. That told me enough." I exhaled. She continued. "You think you're the first in our family to be erased?" I left that house 30 years ago. I got tired of being told I was too sensitive, too much. I told the truth once and they never forgave me for it. The room around me didn't change, but something inside me did. Recognition, not pity. You're not wrong for needing distance, she said. You're not broken because you don't fit their mold. Their mold is cracked, has been for years. Her words landed like a warm cloth on a bruise. We talked for almost an hour. About her garden, a women's circle she'd started. The kind of freedom that doesn't look glamorous but is everything. Before we hung up, she said, "Your silence isn't weakness. It's your superpower." That line stayed with me. The next week, I signed the lease for a small studio space. No fanfare, no Instagram countdown. Just a key in my hand and the clean smell of fresh paint. I worked late most nights, piecing it together. Whiteboard, desk, hospitality cart. Every choice was intentional. Every detail said, I decide what belongs here. And when the opening day came, I didn't invite my family. Not out of spite, out of clarity. Guests arrived slowly. Former clients, mentors, local entrepreneurs. People who knew me for my work, not my role in someone else's story. One client raised a glass. "This studio isn't about success," he said. "It's about survival turned into strategy." Applause followed. Warm, genuine, no script required. For the first time, I felt what it was like to stand in a room and not brace for the punchline. But my family wasn't done trying to pull me back into the frame. 3 days after the studio launch, my inbox lit up. First, a text from Callista. "Why didn't you tell us?" Then, an email from Mara. Subject line. This could have been a family moment. Her message was short. "You didn't even give us the chance to support you. That hurts more than you know." No mention of the dinner. No mention of the pajama gift. Not a single acknowledgement of the years they'd stayed silent while I was the punchline. Grant didn't write. Not a word. I locked my phone and went back to the guests still in the room. People who showed up without needing an invitation. People who clapped without needing a script. People whose approval didn't come with conditions. The next morning, a headline popped up on my phone from a local news app. From side hustle to strategy. Local consultant opens groundbreaking creative studio. The article was simple, respectful. Quoted 2 attendees. No drama, no spin. Scroll down and another headline caught my eye. Former city advisors past revisited amid daughter's rising profile. It was Grant. A decade-old ethics investigation. Nothing criminal, but nothing clean. Quiet favors, selective disclosures. Contracts that benefited friends. They didn't name me, but the timing wasn't an accident. Someone had leaked it. Later that afternoon, an email arrived from a leadership nonprofit. They wanted to feature me and Grant in a father-daughter entrepreneurial legacy series. I closed it, then reopened it, and typed one line. No. I won't help rewrite a story I was never allowed to tell. 2 hours later, Callista called. I ignored the first 2 rings. Answered the third. What the hell did you do? No greeting. I didn't leak anything, I said. But I also didn't cover for him. You sabotaged him, she snapped. No, I said calmly. He built the house on sand. I just stopped holding up the frame. She muttered something I didn't catch and hung up. 30 minutes later, a voicemail from Mara. You've really hurt him. I don't know if you're proud of yourself, but I hope it was worth it. I deleted it without saving, the sound of her voice dissolving before it could stick. Days later, Mara emailed again. This time, no guilt trip, just a request. Callista's daughter was getting married, and they were arranging a complete family photo. Everyone would be there. Just smile and make it easier, she wrote. There it was. Not an invitation, a prescription. Not about connection, about optics. The image always mattered more than the truth. I typed one line. Am I part of this family or just the frame? Send. Callista's reply came fast. If you're going to make this about you again, don't come. I didn't respond, and I didn't go. Instead, on the morning of the photo shoot, I was at the studio setting up for a youth mentorship event I'd been planning for months. By 10, a dozen high school girls filled the space. First-generation college-bound, notebooks open, eyes bright. I taught them how to pitch themselves, how to stay in rooms that weren't built for them, how to speak without shrinking. During a break, one girl lingered near the snack table. "I told my mom I want to grow up to be like you," she said. I smiled. "Then you'll probably grow up stronger." She grinned. She said the same thing. By the time the last student left, the studio was quiet again. Across town, I knew my family was posing. Perfect smiles, careful spacing, the real stories cropped out. But here, in my space, there was nothing to crop, nothing to hide. Only work that mattered and people who wanted to be here. And just when I thought they'd finally leave me out of the picture, they found a new way to use my name. It had been 3 weeks since the last message from anyone in my family. No blurry photos from Callista's wedding shoot. No out-of-context memes in the group chat. Not even one of Mara's midnight just-checking-in texts. And for once, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like air. Clean. Breathable. Mine. That Thursday evening, I'd just finished leading another mentorship session. The windows fogged from the warmth of voices and caffeine. Half-empty water bottles sat on the counter. The scent of orange blossom tea lingered in the air. The smell of ambition in progress. As I was cleaning up, my phone buzzed. A text from an unfamiliar number. "Auntie, I want to be like you. Mom says you're too serious. I think you're just real." It was Callista's daughter. The last time I saw her, she was 14, wearing a tie-dye hoodie at a family barbecue where everyone smiled too much and said too little. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I printed the message and taped it into the leather-bound journal I'd kept since the studio's opening day. On the first page, I'd written in shaky cursive, proof I was here. I sat on the couch, letting the studio dim around me. Outside, dusk folded into night. And for the first time, I realized I didn't need their table to have a place. I'd built my own. The leaves outside began their slow turn to gold. I walked to work each morning with coffee in hand, not thinking about who might approve or disapprove. No rehearsed speeches in my head, no bracing for their reaction. Some stories don't end in reunions. They end in realization. The door they once guarded with rules and conditions, I stopped knocking. I built a new one. One where I decide who walks through. Legacy isn't what they say after you're gone. It's what you live out loud while you're still here. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. When you stop waiting for people to see your worth, you make space to finally see it yourself. Have you ever been the outsider in your own family? Share your story in the comments. I promise you're not alone. And if this spoke to you, like, share, and subscribe for more true stories that speak quietly but cut deep.